Some of the biggest ideas in history, think penicillin, the microwave, even Post-it notes, they weren't planned at all. They were just happy accidents. Well, today we're looking at a company that, right in the middle of a global crisis, stumbled onto a business model that, by pure chance, turned out to be perfectly built for the age of AI.
It all kicks off with a simple but absolutely huge question. For decades now, we've all been living in the era of the giant online shopping mall. The one-stop shop for literally everything. But what if that whole model is hitting its peak? What's next?
Well, the answer might actually lie in a fundamental shift. We could be moving away from this vertical platform-first economy, dominated by giants like Amazon, to something totally new, a horizontal community-first economy. And this isn't just about a new online store. It's a completely different way of thinking about how markets even work.
So let's rewind and go back to the beginning. Because this idea wasn't dreamt up in some Silicon Valley boardroom. It was an epiphany that was forged in a moment of real, genuine crisis.
The founder, Masahiro Miura, came from a pretty traditional background at a major trading house. He launched his company, Cooperative, in 2019, but then almost immediately the pandemic hit. Business just evaporated. But right in that moment of near failure, something really unexpected happened. His network of partners and industry groups, they all rallied to support him. And that support led to a huge breakthrough.
This was the core realization, the light bulb moment. During that crisis, they saw that a company's real value isn't about how big it is. It's about the strength of the relationships within its community. And the big takeaway here? A strong economy isn't just about transactions. It's actually built on a foundation of human trust.
And this single idea, that community is way more valuable than scale, it wasn't just some passing observation. It became the absolute bedrock for an entirely new economic philosophy. They gave it a pretty big name, the Guild Correlational Economy. But the idea is actually pretty simple. What if markets behave less like a giant, impersonal platform and more like the guilds from way back in the day? A place where commerce just naturally emerges from networks of trust and shared values. It's an economy built on human connection, not just some algorithm's recommendation.
So this philosophy gave them a super clear goal. Don't just build another website for individuals to shop on. Instead, build an economic infrastructure for entire communities. And this is exactly what led them to create their decentralized e-commerce platform, Co.
Okay, so that's the why. Now let's get into the how. How does this community-first model actually work in the real world?
And this is where things get really clever. I mean, look at this. An iPhone for about $10? How is that even possible without the company going completely bankrupt? Well, the answer is in this really smart system they call Co points.
Let's just break this down. On the left, you've got your traditional sale. Your revenue gets slashed in half, your brand image can take a hit, and it gets booked as a loss. But on the right, with the Co points system, the company actually records the sale at full price. The discount isn't a loss at all. It's cleverly recategorized as a promotional expense, which protects both the accounting books and the brand.
The accounting behind it is brilliantly simple. A company buys points and just books it as a promotional expense. Think of it like their marketing budget. Then the customer uses those points to get a huge discount. But, and this is the absolute key, on the company's books, that item is still sold at full price. They've essentially turned a damaging sales loss into a flexible, prepaid marketing cost. It's genius.
And right here is where our story takes its most surprising turn. This is that moment of accidental genius where a community-focused business model has this powerful and totally unforeseen collision with technology.
Because here's the thing, this entire system, the community, the points, the accounting trick, it was never ever designed with artificial intelligence in mind. Not even a little bit.
But as the company got bigger, they brought in some experts from major firms like Mitsubishi and Toshiba. And when these experts really looked under the hood, they found something incredible. This community-based model was a perfect, almost purpose-built match for information science in the AI era. It was a total accident, which honestly makes it even more powerful. They found that the model aligned perfectly with three specific, really cutting-edge fields in AI engineering: network science, behavioral data analysis, and AI vector analysis. Let's dig into what that actually means.
So let's start with network science. What is that? Well, it's basically the study of relationships. Think about how Google works, right? It doesn't just look at the words on a web page, it analyzes the links between pages to figure out what's valuable and authoritative. A link is just a relationship. Well, Hopika's model is built on the very same idea, but instead of mapping websites, it's mapping the relationships between actual people in a community.
And to understand why this is such a big deal for AI, we can look at a lesson from way back in 1936. The Literary Digest magazine polled millions of people, a massive data set, and got the presidential election completely wrong. Why? Because their data was big, but it was super biased. At the same time, a guy named George Gallup polled just a few thousand people and got it right, because his small sample was truly representative. The huge lesson from that story is that data quality and context are so much more important than just sheer quantity. And in the age of AI, this is truer than ever. It is not about having the biggest data, it's about having the right data. And a community, which is naturally bound by shared context and trust, produces exactly the kind of high-quality, signal-rich data that powerful AI absolutely thrives on.
So this powerful combination of community and AI wasn't just some happy accident. It became the foundation for their vision of a whole new kind of economy.
So where do they go from here? Well, they're launching something called the blue-collar co-op. The idea is to apply the exact same community-based model to professional groups, people who are connected by their jobs, to give them real collective buying power.
And the potential market here, in Japan alone, is massive. We're talking about 20 million people in fields like transportation, construction, and caregiving. And these aren't just individual workers. They're huge, interconnected communities with very specific, shared needs.
And this is where it could really scale up. It creates a powerful network effect. Basically, the more communities that join in, truck drivers, construction workers, caregivers, the more valuable the entire economic system becomes for everyone. It's not just a bunch of separate stores. It's a network of interconnected economies that all support each other.
And this brings us to a really fascinating final thought. What if the future of commerce isn't one single giant store, but millions of small, interconnected marketplaces all built on trust? It kind of leads to a final question for you. Think about the community you belong to, your job, your hobby, your neighborhood. If it became its own marketplace, what would it sell?